them to pop up, shall we? Oh shit, that was really quick. There we go, stream's up, chat's up, and we're all good to go. Wow, YouTube is actually cooperating with me for a change. Fantastic. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to round 7 of the PS4 Tier 2 Elite Series here on Race Spec Esports. Welcome to Le Castellet, France, here at Circuit Paul Ricard. Often regarded as one of the worst tracks in real-life Formula 1, has generated next to no memorable racing whatsoever. There is a chance, a small chance, that really good racing can occur on this racetrack. A 5.85 kilometer 15 turn racetrack. Some of the key corners on this racetrack located at turn 8 and turn 1 maybe. Those are the two places where most of the overtaking is going to take place. A lot of the racetrack has pretty much followed the leader sort of stuff. So yeah, turn 1 and turn 8. More so turn 8 is where most of the overtaking is going to take place. Some of the key features of this French racetrack: it has 11,000 million billion cajillion miles of runoff space. It's absolutely massive. When you're looking at it from a bird's eye view, you need 3D glasses so then you don't get a massive headache. And it's one of the few circuits on the Formula 1 calendar that isn't designed by Hermann Tilke. Doesn't mean it's a good circuit though. Well, at least in real life. In the virtual world, not too bad. Some pretty good racing can happen here. And it's a pretty okay circuit in terms of difficulty as well. There is a fair amount of technicality involved, some tight twisty bits, a nice combination of low, medium and high speed corners. But the track itself isn't too difficult until it starts raining. I've noticed when it starts raining here, a fair amount of chaos can take place. So if we see any clouds about during the race, we might get a nice and spicy French Grand Prix. But for qualifying at least, it is absolutely clear skies here in Le Castellet. Now actually, we'll have a look at what everyone's on. Everyone's on the soft compound tyre. Interesting. KD, driver who's new to the championship, he's on the medium tyre. He just wants to gauge the conditions at the moment. And we're going to let him take us on a lap of this circuit. Just before that though, it's probably best we talk about the championship. We are 7 rounds in, of course. Eternal Schnoz is currently leading the championship on 102 points, with Pure Gold in second on 87 points. But those two drivers are currently reserve drivers, so the highest placed full-time driver is ACW in the Williams, followed by Plevs and Rhythms on 63, 58 and 46 points respectively. With that out of the way, let's take you on a lap of Circuit Paul Ricard, heading towards turn 1, almost towards 330 kilometers an hour, into turn 2, a very tricky corner. It's got a little bit of elevation change towards the apex, and it wants to force the car out wide on corner exit. So you might get a track extending warning, which isn't very helpful during qualifying. Heading through turn 6, maybe the most important corner on the circuit, as it dictates a run through turn 7, and in turn the run down the long Mistral straight. See here, absolutely full throttle, heading over 334 kilometers an hour before the braking zone at turn 8, and then into turn 9. Remember, all of the overtaking around this racetrack is probably going to occur there. There might be some overtaking here just after turn 9, heading into turn 10, if drivers can get a good run out of turn 10 is a bit of a handful. Turn 11, double apex right-hander, one of my most favorite corners in F1 2020. I absolutely love that corner. Turn 12, reducing radius, left-hander, gets quite tight on the exit. Turn 13, heading into turn 14. This corner pretty much just acts as a setup for the final corner, turn 15. One of the worst corners, in my opinion, in F1 2020. An absolutely shocking corner, but it exists for some reason. As KD crosses the line, 1 minute 30.175. That is the benchmark for the drivers to beat. Who is next on a flying lap, I wonder? It seems to be a Red Bull. I think it's Roscoe, no, ACW. He jumps to the top of the table, a 1 minute 27.796. A Star Is Born in the Haas jumps up to P2 with a 28.6. GeForce Drea 29.3. So the field is quite spread out at the moment. Hopefully it will condense itself as the qualifying session goes on. Also a bit of news from the Discord. Rhythms appears to have a bit of a problem with his sim rig at the moment. It's going through some technical difficulties, and if that continues to happen during the race, he may consider retiring from the session, and that's a pretty big deal considering he's 5th in the championship, just 12 points behind Plebs. So he desperately doesn't need a retirement next to his name, so hopefully his rig will hold up during the race. LM15 on a lap, ACSC going through turn 11. Be nice to see a French car win on French soil. Something patriotic about it, I must say. We saw that happen in, what was it? It was Tier 1 America Series, where BRT Fast took a victory for Renault here at Paul Ricard. It was quite nice, actually. As the Frenchman comes across the line and he goes up to 6th with a 1 minute 29.0. Imagine that. Of course, this driver is a Frenchman as well. So a French driver in a French car on French soil, that'll be one magical story, one magical result if that could happen. But he's got quite a mountain to climb in the form of ACW. That 27.7 looking like a bit of a tough time to beat. Bodhod, a reserve driver, a teammate of mine as well in Tier 3 Pacific Series. He won this race actually in Tier 3. A superb drive from him. Let's see what he can do coming around the final corner. DRS open, stays to the left hand side up towards the line, which has been shifted from F1 2019. It's a lot further down the pit straight now this year. I don't like it. I'm not a personal fan of it. It's just it takes too long, in my opinion, for the drivers to cross the start finish line. It's just too far down the pit straight. I wish it was in its original place. Just seemed more suitable. But anyway, Big Chich in the McLaren coming through turn 9. Back down onto the Mistral straight, heading towards turn 10. Absolutely flat out, aiming for the 50 meter bird, turns in, looking for that yellow marker as the apex. Now into turn 11. You have to go in quite deep into this corner and stay on the throttle and only start braking until you sort of hit the first apex at turn 11. If you're braking any earlier, you're going too slow. Chick's getting a bit lucky, not getting an invalidation there, because he was pretty close to it. 4th gear, maybe a bit too quick through 14. You can see what I mean by 14 being a setup. It's not a corner that you attack so much. You more or less prepare the car to take the final corner, because that's the critical corner, because turn 15, the final corner, it dictates the run onto the pit straight. So in terms of importance, turn 15 has sort of a higher position. So you just use 14 as a bit of a setup. Get the car into a good position for the entrance of 15 to carry as much corner speed as you possibly can and try and get the best exit that you can possibly get. And you can see Chich with that awkward one through the final corners, the best he can do at the moment is a 30.8. So hopefully we'll see that close up. Rhythms in the Ferrari on an outlap, just about to begin a flyer. Let's see how the German does it. Nice and gentle around the final corner. Try and get a nice good run. This is where the start finish line used to be. It's now here for whatever reason. Heading towards turn 1, hard on the 2, very nice there, through there as well in 5th gear. Heading up towards turn 3, then into turn 4, 3rd gear. He'll probably use 2nd for turn 5. Short shift? No, uses all of 2nd. Interesting. Short shift to 4. Uses all of 4. Interesting. Bit of a different technique from what I've seen other drivers use around that section, including myself. I tend to shift up a little earlier to try and settle the car down, to get the power down a lot earlier, but this is a bit different. Through turn 9, very nice run. At the moment he's hitting his marks, typically is a good sign. Turn 10, very nice. Now turn 11. Then try and hit the second apex, there we go. As Harry Tomato is out of the session, he's retired in the pit lane. Through turn 12, heading through 13. Then turn 14, probably drop it down to 4th gear. Then try and stay to the left, or maybe not. Again, kind of compromising the run through the final corner. You need to be a little bit further to the left. Heading up towards the line, there's a 1 minute 29.1. So still, at the moment, with 7 minutes left in the session, only one driver in the 27s, and he is on another flyer. He's heading around the final corner. DRS open, sticking to the left-hand side. So 1:27.4. He's blitzed his own time by 0.3 of a second. He's now on pole position by just under half a second. Just under half a second, as Alex Parto in the AlphaTauri jumps up to P2 with a 27.9, the second driver in the 27s. By contrast, he's up by a 10th. Is he going to crack into the 27s? Not quite. Does a 27.226. He stays in P4. Is that Kush? He was the previous holder of P2 before Alex set up his lap. Let's see what the Alfa Romeo driver can do. He's basically even Steven through the first sector, through turn 7, down the Mistral straight, DRS open. Let's see how high the speedo goes. 330, 332. So it suggests to me that Izzat might be running with slightly higher wing, or maybe a slightly taller car than some of the other drivers on track, because I've seen drivers hit up and toward 335 kilometers an hour heading into the braking zone. Izzat is about 3 kilometers slower. Through turn 11, 4th gear, short shift to 5th, get on the power as early as you can. Turn 12, hits the apex quite nicely through there. 5th, 6th gear, 7th gear, through the final 2 corners. Now this is where it's very important. You'll stay to the left. Maybe a bit of an awkward run through the final corner, short shifting a lot of gears. Up towards the line and does a 27.8. He jumps back up to P2. But he's still just under 0.4 behind HCW at the moment. LM15 in the Renault, coming around the final corner now. The only driver yet to set a lap time, who come across the line and set a 1 minute 28.4, jumps up to P7. Only just behind P6, who's Plevs. As Plevs, well, was in P6, jumps up to P4. He improves by 0.3, does a 1 minute 28.1. So Rhythms has left the session. Interesting. Should probably just hop on the pad if you're having wheel trouble. Just see what happens, you know. Got a controller near you, just hop on that thing. See how it goes. Let's see, anyone else on a flyer? Roscoe Arm isn't. What about Chich? He appears to be coming through the first sector now. Through turn 5, 2nd gear, short shifts, uses almost all of 3rd gear. Through turn 7, onto the long back straightaway. Let's see where his speedo tops out at. Heading up towards 330, 331, 332. About the same as Izzat. Or maybe overshooting turn 8 a little bit there, making a meal of turn 9. Oh, he's lucky he was able to catch that. So he's got basically one more opportunity to try and set a flying lap. He still has it in overtake mode, so he's pushing hard, perhaps to try and get back into the pit lane ASAP. But yeah, pushing really, really hard at the exit of turn 9. Let's see, but yeah, everyone's in the pits. They're all setting themselves up for their final flying laps, and at the moment pole position looks impossible to get, and Isaac Kush is actually retiring from the session. Interesting, he's not going to have a crack at pole. He is happy with his performance, so he will start at a highest of P2. We'll have to wait and see what everyone else can do. High contrast on an out lap, G-Force Dre on an out lap as well. In fact, he's about to begin his flying lap out of the final corner. He moves to the right hand side. He's going to move as far right as he possibly can to try and open up turn 1. Hits the apex well through turn 2, 5th gear, right out towards the white line. Pinpoint precision from G-Force Dre not to get an invalidation. Second, early he can go to 100% throttle. He was almost on 100% throttle immediately. He had that much confidence in himself in the car. Around turn 8, into turn 9, down the Michel straight once again. Into turn 10, then turn 11, double apex right-hander. It's his second apex well. Oh no, he's actually pulled out. Has he invalidated? Must have. Either that or he's trying to set up another lap. Oh no, he's setting up another lap. Righto. Interesting. He was pushing pretty hard on that lap, I must say. To pull out. And I didn't think he invalidated either. But there you go. Chain gain. The Dutchman currently in P12 on a flyer. So is ACW. So our poleman is going to try and beat his own lap. Let's ride on board, shall we? I want to see this. How do you do a mid-27 around Paul Ricard? Second gear, third gear, there's KD, he gets off the track and he's up. Only a little bit though. 35 thousandths of a second. DRS open. You can see that speedo climb, 330, 332 kilometers an hour, into turn 8, hits his marks, turn 9, third gear, on the throttle as soon as he can. Now he sticks to the left, has about half a car over the white line to try and open up turn 10. Turn 11, as late as he dares, fourth gear, he'll short shift to fifth. No, use all of fourth. Interesting. Down to third gear. Short shift to fourth at the apex of turn 12. Turn 14. The setup. You can see there a lot more over to the left. Bit of a lag spike there, but that's okay. ACW, he will come up towards the line. A 1:27.460. He does improve, but only by just by 17 thousandths of a second. Can anyone come close? Alex Parto, he's up on his time. He's looking at starting on the front row. Comes across the line and does so. A 1:27.687. He improves by 2/10. Well done. Plebs is in. He cannot improve on his time. What about Chech? He can't improve either. So that's it. That is qualifying done and dusted here at Paul Ricard, and it's ACW on pole. By 0.2 of a second to Alex Parter. There we go. Everyone retired from the session. Very nice. But there we go. That is qualifying done and dusted. And it's ACW on pole, Alex Parter in P2, Isaac Kush in P3, Plebs in P4, Contrast in P5, LM15 in P6, Bodhod, the reserve driver, in P7, Star is Born in P8, ACSC in P9, and Chain Game, wow, rounds out the top 10, and all of them will be starting on the soft compound tyre. Now, I haven't got any report in terms of the weather, so I'm assuming it's going to be a dry race, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. It'll be interesting to see what the drivers outside the top 10 decide to do in terms of tyre strategy as well, if it remains dry all the way throughout. But here we go. Have a look, see what's going on. I'll also just take a quick look at the chat in the Discord. Just, oh, it is pissing down rain. Right. So, get everything I said about deciding what kind of tyre strategy you're going to go for, and completely chuck it out the window. Because it is absolutely pissing down rain here at Paul Ricard. Oh boy. And I did mention at the beginning of this, Paul Ricard, in terms of difficulty, it's not a too difficult racetrack in the dry. In the wet, however, there are some corners you really have to look out for, particularly the chicane. I have seen countless incidents there at that very corner. One of the more infamous ones is probably what happened in Season 2 Tier 2 Pacific Series, where the race leader, he had the lead by about, I think it was something like 10 seconds or something like that. Maybe it was less than that. I can't quite remember. But he almost had the race in the bag. Even by that point, it was about 1/3 into the race, and he just lost complete control at turn 10. Car just stepped out. There was nothing he could do. The car just slid across the wet runoff tarmac, and he slammed into the tyre barrier, completely destroying the car. So yeah, when it rains here at Paul Ricard, the spice factor is dialed up to 11. Be interesting to see what these gentlemen do in these conditions. It appears as well everyone will be starting on the intermediate tyre. Have a look. 2 drivers on the wets, and that's Chich and Harry Tomato. Now, is that in preparation for conditions in the future, or is that the conditions now? Because it does look pretty wet. See, it's so difficult to tell, because it looks like it's full wet conditions, but the game might be thinking that this, although it looks full wet, might only be intermediate. Or it is actually full wet conditions, but it's going to be like intermediate conditions in 5 or so minutes, and all of these guys are just going to try and tough it out. Except for Chich and Tomato, they might be on the correct tyre. I don't know. Oh, it's going to be so interesting. Contrast has been teleported back to the grid. Good-o. We'll get this race underway. 27 laps here at Paul Ricard. In the dry, it's not too long of a race. In the wet, though, it's a fair bit longer. And we'll get even longer if we get any safety cars or virtual safety cars at any point during this race. But ACW will lead the field back onto the grid. They will line up into their respective grid slots, and we'll get this race underway. We'll just be waiting on Harry Tomato. Actually, no, it'll be Rhythms to line up into his position. If he's rejoined the session, I'll Have to check that in a little bit just to see if he's actually there or that's his AI behind the wheel. But here we go. We got 5 red lights. And it's lights out. And away we go here in Le Castellet, France. And it seems ACW has gotten a decent start. But here comes Isaac Kush. An awesome start from the Alfa Romeo driver. He leads into turn... Oh my goodness me, what was that? That was Alex. What on earth? Alex Pato, a 3-second time penalty for corner cutting. How on earth did he do that? Oh, and breaking some braking boards, somewhat ironically, there from Roscoe. Oh my word, I thought that was going to be a massive crash, but somehow it just wasn't. Because, yeah, Alex completely and utterly cut the course. And ACSD, the Frenchman, finds himself in 3rd place. An astonishing start, up 6 positions in fact. Bodhod in 4th place. Alex now down in 5th after his lap 1, turn 1 excursion and the million miles of runoff located on the outside of turn 1. But I think the lap 1 shenanigans are finally over, but now we're coming through turn 10 and drivers really do have to feel their way around this corner. You can't take it flat. Under any circumstances, mustn't you take it flat? As these two, Roscoe and KD, are having a scrap. Tomato and Chain Gang around the outside. Someone's crashed. It's Rhythms and Chich. Now I wonder, no, Rhythms isn't in control of that car. But he is ghosting, so I don't think these two made contact. I think Chich just lost it by himself and Rhythms was just nearby. G-Force Dre, oof, bit of contact there. And hello, LM, around the outside. Goes Lachlan Murphy, puts the power down nicely. But there we go, lap 1 out of the way. And we got Isaac Kush leading after, quite frankly, a magical start. He absolutely nailed it. He's nailed it to the point he's got a 2.2 second lead after merely 1 lap, and that is Chain Gang, causing that yellow flag, a brief yellow. What are these fellas up to? Tomato, LM and Chain Gang going through turn 5. Lachlan having a bit of a moment, and a 5-second penalty for corner cutting and gaining a place. I see. Interesting. Right on board with Alex, shall we? Sort of higher midfield placement of 6. You can see here, coming through turn 10, you have to go off throttle. And you can see how squirrely it is. Like, there's almost next to no confidence with these guys going through that turn. You really do have to be gentle with the car through that right-hander. Through turn 12, see, they're so much slower, so much more gentle with the car, so much more easy on the throttle. Through 14, then into the final corner, turn 15, first gear, second gear, gets on the power. Is that sets a fast slap, as you'd expect, down the pitch straight for the 3rd time, heading into turn 1, then turn 2. See, they're so gentle. You don't want to get on the throttle too early or you'll spin out. It's quite frankly that simple. But it seems everyone's settling down now. Opening laps out of the way. It's now about finding your rhythm in these conditions. It's going to be quite difficult for drivers to make overtakes happen. It's all about applying pressure, and for you as a driver, it's all about consistency, constantly hitting your marks. Do not make any mistakes, and make the drivers around you make mistakes. Make your job a hell of a lot easier to try and overtake them. Zalem gets past Chain Gang in their battle for 13th, just outside the point scoring positions. Oh, as plebs, as I said, it's so easy. So easy. A great catch, I must say, from plebs, from keeping that car from going into the tyre barrier on the inside. As Bodhod, oh, that's an awkward run through turn 12. Just couldn't carry the mid-corner speed, and you can see there, the car getting squirrely, and so is plebs. Synchronized drifting, it's absolutely fantastic. Well, I wouldn't even say drifting, because if it was drifting, it implies that there was control behind that. Those two are well out of control at that point, and Bodhod has another squirrely moment. And because Plez was able to put more of the power down, produce less wheel spin, he dives down the inside. LM15, a 10-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. Oh, Bodhod, a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. It's quite easy to do at turn 2. The track extending warning on the exit is pretty brutal, so yeah. I'm not too surprised that some drivers have already got warnings from that corner. But Izzat is just in a world of his own in these conditions. He's got a comfortable lead of almost 3 seconds, and that is gently increasing. Heading through turn 9. You can see they're using really high gears, really trying to minimize the wheel spin. See here through turn 10, not touching the curb. That might be a thing that these drivers do. ACSC absolutely using all of it though. But yeah, you don't want to touch any of the painted stuff in these conditions. Just instantly spin out. So while this midfield battle is going on, I just caught my eye to the minimap, and there's this, a group of 4 cars just outside the top 10 in this nice little cluster going through turn 11, consisting of GeForce Grey, Hairy Tomato, Chain Game Wow, and LM15, who got a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting, which is it didn't look like he went off the circuit from the minimap. He only must have just cut a corner, just one wide somewhere. Oh, and a touch, a brief touch, and another touch between these two, the Hairy Tomato and Chain Game. An almighty moment could have happened there, but luckily they kept it under control. Just see that Hairy Tomato on the wet tyre, which is a very interesting tyre to go on. It seems like the Inters are the best tyre, but I guess not by much. He is able to hold his own. But is that because of him and his car speed? The tyre, I don't know. As LM, oh, contact perhaps there at turn 5. Bit of an audacious move, not necessarily an overtaking spot, turn 5. You really do have to commit to the overtake if you want to try and pull that off. Got this going on as well, KD and Contrast. Oh, KD having a bit of a moment out of turn 9. Using a bit of overtake. Try and get some momentum his way. 7th gear. That's KD is the first driver I've seen shift down at turn 10 into 7th gear. Everyone else keeps it in 8th through turn 9, and there's Roscoe Arm just in the wing mirror of KD. So KD's got to concentrate on the car in the front and on the car behind. Is that another fastest lap? And he's still pulling away. Gap now 4.3 seconds between the top 2. But this battle is now starting to hot up, and it's for points as well, so it's best that we keep an eye on it. Now where will KD try and set up an overtake? Can he find a run somewhere? Through turn 2, on the limit there. In terms of warnings, he was very, very close to the white line. Through turn 3, into turn 4. Now this will be the important corner, not turn 5, but the corner after, turn 6. He needs a good run through here in order to try and make any sort of opportunity happen with Contrast. No Contrast holds his ground. Got a 6.5 margin now. And Roscoe Arm slowly closing just under half a second to KD into the braking zone of turn 8. Then turn 9. Short shift. Short shift again. And he's able to go to 100% power in 6th gear. That's how long you have to wait. You have to be very patient. That's exactly what he's doing at the moment. Oh, it's KD loses it! Oh, how did he not crash? Oh, Racer, a fantastic save. I mean, absolutely fantastic catch. But he's lost a position. And that's what I mean, consistency. Hit your marks. Don't make mistakes, because as soon as you do, someone will pounce. And for Racer, that moment, it could have spelt complete disaster for him. So he'll thank his lucky stars that he's still in the race and still in the points as well. He can recover. He's only just behind, only 8.5 tenths. Looking at the rest of the field, got a battle for P6. Scratch that, P5. Somewhat similar battle to what we were watching before. KD gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. But we've got Bodhod, Alex Pato and A Star Is Born heading through turn 7 now. Up the Mistral straight. Now I don't think the Haas is quite close enough just yet. But if he can maintain that sort of pace, he might be able to make a move stick, perhaps in 1 or 2 laps time. And Plebs has caught on to the back of the Renault of ACSC. Heading through turn 11. The gap between the two is 7/10 of a second. Slowly closing. It's a good battle in these conditions. Evil Stray, a 3-second time penalty. Driver who's currently in 12th. 3 seconds now next to his name. But through the final corner. Up gently through the gears again. Gently. Down the pit straight. Overtake mode engage. He's closing. And the gap slightly opened up actually. So it may suggest that the Renault has got some pretty good straight line speed. Perhaps it's not quite as good in the turns. As into the pits goes the Hairy Tomato. And he was on the wet compound tyre. He'll probably be switching to intermediates. I'm almost certain of it. It definitely looks like intermediate conditions. Off the wets, onto the inter. Now he's got clear air around him, so he can knuckle down and put some pretty quick laps together. Rhythm still hasn't rejoined the session. Church is by his lonesome in 16th. Just happy to be here, is Church. Kush setting a purple sector 2, suggesting that the track is getting drier, it is getting quicker. So we might see some dry conditions in this race. Definitely spice things up. Plebs, he's still just hanging on to the back of the Renault. But he hasn't really made any sort of advances to try and overtake. He's just playing a patient game at the moment. At the moment, these two seem to be fairly evenly matched. So, again, is that Kush a new fastest lap of 43.8? So these times are tumbling. They are getting quicker and quicker. So we just might be seeing some dry conditions later on in this race. Alex Pato in P6, still hanging on to the back of Bodhod. A Star Is Born has lost a little bit of ground, but he's still there. You can still see the two in front quite clearly. And he knows if either of these two make a mistake, he should be able to capitalise. Further behind, our Contrast is still leading this battle of 3. Got Roscoe Arm and KD in behind. This battle is a bit more spread out, but it's still definitely on. And Contrast gets a fantastic exit out of turn 6 and 7. Look at that. He pulled, I think it was something like nearly 0.4 of a second through those two corners alone. Got an absolutely fantastic run through there. Back towards these guys. Times are still tumbling. The rain is getting lighter. Clouds aren't opening though. It is very gloomy here at Paul Ricard. Oh, there is a few blue spots here and there. There's some of them, so as Contrast gets a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. As Isaac Kush, a 43 flat, so he's beaten his own time by 0.8 of a second, I think. I'm pretty sure I'm right. Just give me a minute. Lap time, yeah, look at that, 43.8. He just did a 43 flat, so it is definitely getting quicker. We're right on board with the Alpha driver. Let's see how he conducts himself in these conditions. Slightly more intermediate rather than sort of intermediate wet conditions. Round turn 7. And he's pulling away massively to ACW. He's now got a gap of 6 seconds. And to put that in perspective, he's pulling away a bit over more than half a second a lap. About 6.5 tenths per lap to ACW. A man who qualified on pole by 2 tenths into dry conditions. Shows that this driver is quite comfortable when the track gets a little damp. Through turn 12. And it's always good for everyone watching to understand what some of these top drivers do in these conditions, to understand how to be fast in wet conditions. I mean, you can be fast and dry, but when it goes wet, you see drivers like this as he absolutely lights it up on the exit. Crosses the line, does a 42.4, he beats his own time again, this time by 0.6 of a second. And with no assist as well. At this much speed, as Chips has a moment. Gathers the car up and he gets going. Nice and easy now, Chips. Keep it within the black lines. Oh, the white lines rather. Keep it on the black stuff. Dear oh dear. Is that now 7.2 seconds? An almighty margin. Back to this, shall we? This battle. Still going on. Bodhod, Parto. A star is born. P5, P6, P7. These guys have been really consistent. None of them have made too many mistakes. Oh, as there's one small one made from Alex. It's only a small one. Now you might think he hasn't lost a great deal of time as Titch retires in the pit lane. He's had enough, and that's fair. Now that's just a small mistake. He lost a little bit of time, but now that's in the back of his mind. Just I had this little squirrely moment at turn 10. I might need to take it a little bit easier, and that takes the edge off your driving. You start to become more conservative, and you aren't sort of attacking the driver in front as KD comes in. So what is this for? This has to be for inters, another set of inters. He's got front wing damage? No. Just another set of intermediate tyres. Thought perhaps he might have tried to pull a Lance Stroll from the German Grand Prix all the way back in 2019. Alright, well, who remembers 2019? The Formula 1 season that didn't suck. Well, especially in comparison to 2020 at least. Oh my word. Now, what's going on up here again? The gap is closed up a little bit. Starts to open up a little bit, heading into turn 10. Again, somewhat cautious. And there's A Star Is Born. He's losing a little bit of ground to these two. Through turn 12. LM, another 3-second time penalty next to his name. As into the pits goes Alex. Pulls the car up nicely. And what will this be for? No one else has followed him. And there's still plenty of raindrops on the screen, so this will be another set of intermediate tyres. He goes. Enters on. So he's got a new fresh set. Some new groove tyres. Back up to the leaders. So that puts Bodhod sort of by himself. He's got a fair gap to Plebs, and he's got 1.8 seconds to A Star Is Born there. But he can now more so focus on himself. Just try and hit his marks. If he makes even a little mistake, he's got enough ground to A Star Is Born to try and hold him off. It's only when you make a big mistake that he'll lose the position. And Plebs is now caught up to the Frenchman in P3. I was about to mention that Plebs had fallen outside of a second as Izzat has come in. Into the pits he goes. What does ACW do? Does he follow? Does he stay out? He stays out. As the Frenchman dives in, what about Plebs? He stays out. Interesting. So I'm guessing these intermediate tyres are pretty cooked right now. It is about half race distance. So they're going to go onto a fresh set of intermediate tyres. And they should be able to go on the end, go to the end of the race on those, if this stays intermediate. Into the pits as well is High Contrast and A Star Is Born. Let's see where these gentlemen come out. It is a bit of an awkward pit exit here at Paul Ricard, because the pit exit comes out onto the racing line, and Contrast just gets in front of KD. Remember, these two were in a battle at one stage. KD is only 3/10 behind the Mercedes as KD makes a meal of turn 3. Holy moly, did you cut that? Or as KD thought about it. He thought about it, but he makes a mistake. He's asking a bit too much of himself and the car there. He needed to be a little bit more patient, because now he's dropped half a second to Contrast. He has to build, reduce that gap all over again. Get it out of overtake. You don't need overtake here. Oh dear. It's dumping ERS. Trying to catch up. Into the pits goes ACW. So the Williams dives in. He'll be going on to a new set of Inter. No front wing change. And away he goes. So Plevs becomes your race leader. But from the looks of things, he does need to make a pit stop, so. And looking around the track, although there are small breaks in the clouds, I don't think he'll be going to dry conditions anytime soon. Alex Parto sets a new fastest lap of 42 flat. Chain Game and Lachlan both dive into the pits for a new set of Inter. Now the field is spread out a little bit, but that's only because of the pit lane shuffling that's currently going on. Once everyone has made their stops, we'll be able to see the battles that we were seeing commence once more. Purple in Sector 2 is at Kush. Alex Parto gets a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. Still no safety car, 15 laps in and no safety car. We've seen a few moments at turn 10, but the drivers have kept it out of the wall. Plevs does another lap. What is he thinking, I wonder? Perhaps a safety car? What does Bodhod do? He stays out another lap. What does Roscoe Arm do? He stays out another lap. Izzat sets a new fastest lap of 41.2. Got exceptional speed at the moment. Here we go, into turn 1 goes ACW. He has to try and get past Roscoe Arm. Roscoe Arm hasn't made a stop yet. I wonder how difficult the Red Bull will make it. Oh, excuse me. It won't be an easy overtake, I would imagine. Oh, but ACW can carry that much more speed on the fresher tyre if KD gets a 3-second time penalty. Roscoe Arm, he moves to the left. It's absolutely to no avail. ACW should slingshot by heading into turn 8. Roscoe Arm rather wisely pulls out of it. Just sits in behind ACW. As now ACSC has to make his way past the Red Bull. And it seems Roscoe Arm trying to break the toe a little bit. Through turn 10. Get a little bit off throttle. Just so then you don't spin yourself out into Narnia. But ACSC keeps it under control. Around turn 12. LM15, again a 3-second time penalty. Is a new fastest lap of 41.1. He's dropped the hammer, setting some blistering lap times. Now the Frenchman, he basically has to do what ACW did a lap prior. Just be patient, wait until you get onto the back straight. You'll be able to make a move then into turn 1. Roscoe Arm gets a 3-second time penalty, and I'm sure AC got a warning as well for turn 1. He cut back quite a bit. Through turn 3 into turn 4. Again, patience as Izzat gets a 3-second time penalty. Roscoe Arm a bit wide at turn 5. The Frenchman seizes the opportunity and makes the move stick. An excellent move. Now he can try and hunt down ACW. Gap is 3 seconds. But at the moment he is sitting in provisional 3rd place. Because Bodhod and Plevs need to make a pit stop. The conditions are easing, but don't think by enough. I wonder if these tyres are in puncture territory right about now. Izzat is now right on the back of Plevs going through turn 14. Oh, I think Izzat was thinking about it. Rather wisely pulls out of the move. Uses a bit of overtake. He moves to the inside line. Here we go into turn 1. It's a very simple move. Very professional. Moves himself back into the lead. As Bodhod seems to be overtaken now by ACW. Bodhod falls to 4th place. Alex making a move on GeForce Dre. Now, has the rain stopped? It has. The rain has stopped. So how much longer will this track stay in intermediate conditions? When will we go to the dry? And what tyre do the drivers go on? Well, if DRS is enabled right now, I would recommend going on to the medium compound. I would honestly recommend going on to the medium compound, but if it's lap 20 or so, the soft tyre might be a viable option. Guess we'll have to wait and see. Through turn 6, turn 10 rather, 10 and 11. As the Frenchman, he saw a door, rather wisely pulls out of it. Turn 12. You can see there's still plenty of spray coming off the tyres as Plebs dives in. Now I bet my bottom dollar he's going to go onto a set of mediums. Or maybe even a set of softs. Nope, set of mediums, there you go. This is a gambling move from Plebs. This is a big gamble, a big gamble. If he has a bit of luck on his side, this could be a massive power play move. Sector 2 yellow flags. Lachlan Murphy just having a moment after turn 7, sorry. And he's on the median tyre. So how about Plevs? How is he going to fare? Well, we're right on board with Alex, shall we? 1.7 seconds is the gap. Now it's 1.5, 1.3, 1, 6 tenths, 4 tenths, 3 tenths, 2 tenths, overtake. That was literally 2 corners. This could have been a masterstroke strategy. It was a gambling strategy from Plebs. But unfortunately on this lap it is still not dry conditions. They still need to keep pushing on the inters. Can't switch to the dry tyre just yet. There's still question marks over Bodhod and Roscoe. How bad are their tyres right now? 18 laps they've done on these tyres. It's been a long drive. But Isaac Korsh's absolutely dominate as Plebs is falling down the old, oh boy, we better have a look. Here comes GeForce Grey. Ooh, turn 12, this could be nasty. Roscoe, he's in. Interesting. What is he going to go to? Soft tyre. GeForce Grey is in as well. Same with KD. Is this a call from Jeff, I wonder? Or is this their own decision? There's still spray coming off the tyre. Bodhod, a 3-second time penalty. Corner cutting. Just a straight up corner cutting penalty there. That wasn't for warnings. That was for just a straight up corner cut. Oh, what's this? This is, I think, Lachlan again. Yes, it is. But those tyres have probably seen a fair amount of wear. And he's got a puncture, actually. Bodhod's got a puncture. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. 19 laps. It's about how many laps these tyres can do. And he'll have to come in for a set of softs, I'd imagine. Or will he go onto a set of inters? No, surely a set of softs. That's unbelievable, and here comes Alex. Now do be careful. Sure that's Roscoe on. It is. The Bodhod. It might be safer for him to go onto the intermediate tyre, to be honest. The dry tyres don't look like the tyre at the moment. Into the pits. There we go. That was a 3-second corner cutting warning. He must have got a puncture and had to use the runoff. He's going to go onto a set of soft compound tyres. And away he goes out of the pits. This battle going on as well. P6, high contrast and chain game having their own scrap right now, coming through turn 5, heading towards turn 6, half a second separating the two. Through turn 7, up the Mistral straight. Not quite close enough, it would seem, at the moment. Into the pits goes KD. Interesting. He must have wing damage, I'm guessing. I'll check that in just a moment. Someone's got a revving glitch. Ah, it's a Frenchman. Gotta love it. To remind you that it's a Codemasters game. It's still intermediate conditions, apparently. These guys are still losing a lot of time, and you can see how gently Plebs has to drive the car. And he's going to have Bodhot closing on him as well, on that soft tyre. If you want to be on a slick compound tyre in these conditions, you want to be on the grippiest compound, so Bodhot's definitely got the upper hand in that regard. Chain game in contrast though, having a battle, a bit of a scuffle between those two. Some contact I saw. Ooh, the Dutchman having a moment, but he catches it well. Turn 3. Turn 4. Then into turn 5. It's a fair old scrap, this one, between these two. KD, a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. Going to be some penalties applied after this race, dearie me. And now the field is quite spread out, I must say. Now, I'd say we're getting pretty close to dry conditions. What's the gap between Plebs and Chain Game looking like? 18.7 seconds, and it's closing. 18.6. DRS enabled. There we go. Now, will anyone dive in? Anyone at all? Any takers? Alex will be the first one to come up towards the pit entry. He's in P4. He stays out. A Star is Born goes in and overshoots the pit lane entry. Here it is. High Contrast goes in. Same with Chain Game. Now, there is only 5 laps to go, but you are going to be insanely quicker on this tyre. Not only that, but the intermediate tyre will heat up immensely in these conditions, which will only increase the amount of tyre wear. And Plebs now slots himself into P6 just in front of his teammate. Here comes Bodhod into turn 1. These guys have got their tyres up to temperature. High Contrast and Chain Game, they've got about half a lap's worth to try and get them up to temperature, as Contrast gets a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. But Plebs on the medium tyre he doesn't appear to be advancing towards the Star is Born as Isaac Kush comes into the pits. As expected, ACW will follow him shortly. There we go. Into the pits goes the Williams. And ACSC, I'm sure he will follow as well. Absolutely no reason to stay out. Nice and gently into the pits. Roscoe on a 3-second time penalty. What's happened here? Just a brief yellow. It must have been Lachlan just getting out of the way. But Izzat will come out in the lead in clear air on fresh soft compound tyres, and he appears to be completely unchallenged. In fact, the top three look completely unchallenged. These three drivers have driven an absolute masterclass of a race in tricky conditions. They have outshone the field as Plev sets the new fastest lap, beaten by Bodhod, a 1 minute 38.8, and then it's beaten a 38.7 from Roscoe. Be a nice battle to see who gets faster to this race. But look at this train of cars, dearie me, piling their way through turn 5. Leader of this train, Alex Parto. He's got Plevs in behind, 1.7 seconds behind his teammate iContrast in P7, just 1.2. As LM15 was disqualified from the session, too many penalties. He would score no points in this race and be classified in 16th. KD sets new fastest lap at 37.7. Not to anyone's surprise, we're going to see these times topple in these conditions. It's going to be qualifying-esque, like driving from some of these guys to try and get fastest lap. Chain game, he sees an opportunity, he goes for it. They can't complete the overtake. Bodhod hangs on to 8th place for now. These three having an almighty battle. Hopefully this closes up a little bit more. Contrast is now caught onto the back of his teammate. Bodhod a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. Contrast a new fastest lap with a 35.7. Closing in on the back of his teammates. Chain game sends it down the inside. A clean move. He slots himself now into P8. Bit of a moment there from Bodhod, as he might try and counter-attack, as there's Rhythm's lonely Formula 1 car trundling around the circuit. But here comes iContrast, overtake, DRS, he's gaining. I think he'll go for this. Yes, he will, down the inside, into turn 8. A simple move, and he's made it stick, into P6 now. Here comes Bodhod. He hasn't been able to capitalise with the DRS. He's dropped back a little bit. Gap now 8/10. Is that Kush sets a new fastest lap of 33.890. And then ACW obliterates it by 0.4 of a second, showing his sheer qualifying pace. Seems in the dry conditions ACW is the quickest driver in this field, but Izzat put a masterclass in the wet weather conditions. He's got a 10.5 second margin to ACW and P2. The Frenchman AC gets a 3-second time penalty. But I think he will be relatively okay. I'll just quickly check in terms of pens. 3 seconds for Izzat. ACW got nothing. AC, this is his first penalty apparently. A Star is Born, he's got 5 seconds next to his name, plus 3. Alex has only got 3. Contrast 1. 2 penalties. Plevs has got none, so Plevs will take contrast. Chain Game might take contrast as well. Bodhod 6 seconds, so Bodhod and iContrast are on the same page in terms of pens, but they're currently separated by about 5 seconds, so I think Contrast might just be losing 2 positions here. But Izat now begins the final lap of this French Grand Prix. Been just a fantastic drive, really, in those conditions. And he's looking like he might just set fastest lap as well. Down the Mistral straight for the final time. Heading towards turn 8. Gap slowly increasing. Gap now 10.8 seconds. ACW in P2. An absolutely superb qualifying performance. But he just couldn't keep up with the Alfa Romeo in those wet conditions. It ultimately cost him. And what a story for the Frenchman. ACSC in the Renault on French soil, making up 6 positions. I reckon I know who's going to get driver of the day. Seems like Contrast is going to be under attack from Plebs as well for the final lap, even though that battle is more or less done and dusted. But Isaac Kush will cross the line to win here in Le Castellet. He sets fastest lap as well. Keep an eye on that bottom left of your screen. Can ACW beat it? He does. ACW gets fastest lap. 1 minute 31.4. And AC will come across the line to finish in P3. A superb performance from the Frenchman. From 9th up to P3. A podium for Renault here in France. A Star is Born will cross the line in 4th, but I think Alex will pip him to the post. No, he won't. Alex will come home in P5. Contrast across the line in P6. Plebs jumps up to P4 because of penalties. Chain Game up to P7 because of pens. Contrast will finish 8th. Roscoe Arm in 9th. Bodhod, for now, I think he'll stay in P10. So he'll score 1 solitary point. Harry Tomato will come across the line. He will finish in P11. G4 Stray in P12. With Racer, KD 1997 will come home in P13. Not a bad race. I've seen better, but this wasn't a bad one. If you enjoy good driving, this was a pretty decent stream, not gonna lie. Chain Game given driver of the day from Codemasters. There we go. Of course, penalties playing a massive part in that. But well done, Isaac Kush. Absolute mastery in the wet conditions has resulted in him taking victory here in France. ACW in P2 with ACSC, the Frenchman, in P3 from starting P9. And here we go, the unofficial results for this French Grand Prix. Isaac Kush winning by 7.5 seconds to ACW, ACSC in P3. Plebs in P4, Star is Born in P5, Alex Parto P6. It gave driver of the day to Chain Game, even though he started from 10th. He finished 7th. He made up 3. Interesting that the game decided to give it to him. Usually it's whoever makes up the most positions. And it typically helps when you get a podium, so I'm quite surprised AC didn't get that. iContrast P8, Roscoe on P9, Bodhod rounding out the point scoring finishers, and Harry Tomato, G4 Stray, and KD rounds out the other finishers. As Rhythms, he wasn't in control of his car. That was That was the AI in control of that car. But not a bad race here in France. Not bad at all. Could have been a lot worse. But no, some nice driving tonight, I found. I recommend watching this if you want to learn or try and become good at using no assist, no TC, no ABS in wet conditions. Like, it is quite a tricky thing. I know off experience that running with no assist in wet conditions is an absolute nightmare. You have to be so gentle with the car half the time. But yeah, not bad at all. Let's have a look-see. But yeah, this man absolutely nailed it. That was a brilliant drive and a brilliant start from him as well. Absolutely nailed it. If only the tyres lasted one more lap. Yeah, I saw that puncture, Bodhod, don't worry. But where did I get to race? Well, Danny, if you want to start racing in Race Spec Esports, I believe there's a sign-up sheet that you need to do. If you're in the Discord itself, that's great, but you need to do a sign-up sheet. So then you'll be allocated into your sort of respective sort of racing tier. So you can race against drivers of a similar skill level. That's all. If you haven't done that sign-up sheet, then you need to do it. If you have, I'll probably recommend contacting a league coordinator just so then they can guide you in the right direction. Someone like Plevs would be a good person to try and contact. But yeah, fantastic race. Oh, well, for driving, not so much a race, just some good driving on offer tonight. Racing sort of took a back seat, but that kind of happens in wet weather conditions. Anyway, that will conclude round 7 of the PS4 Tier 2 Elite Series here on Race Spec Esports. Next week, if I remember the championship calendar correctly, we're going to Spielberg, Austria, the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix. That tends to be always a classic. You tend to see some pretty damn good racing around that racetrack, so it should be a good one. Hopefully Curving Texas will come back in and commentate. He had to miss out again tonight, so I just stepped in for him, seeing as I was available, but you know, I'm quite happy to do that. But I think that will conclude this stream. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been the Smeg, and we'll see you all next week in Spielberg, Austria at the Red Bull Ring. Until then, good night.